Alright, let's continue with Burp Suite with our incursion or excursion into Burp Suite in this penetration tester path. And what I want to say from the very beginning is that I want to add value to these videos by actually sharing my experience all along this path, my experience from my penetration testing projects, so that I wouldn't just add to the spam of videos that are on YouTube, basically doing the same thing, going through the same rooms and paths here, and actually adding to the spam, which is something that I do not want or I do not wish. I want to add value and I want to add more insight. And to move on, we finished task 7 in the previous video. Again, let me make sure that we're recording here. So now we are task number 8. So it took 8 tasks to actually maybe get to the very nitty-gritty. Let's see, the Burp Proxy is the most fundamental and most important of the tools available in Burp Suite. Of course it is, because that's actually the proxy is what actually powers the suite. It allows us to capture requests and responses between ourselves and our target. Let me just see if we need to do something here in terms of attack boxes, proxy, VPN, access machines, and all that stuff. I don't think we need. For example, if we make a request to this thing here through the Burp Proxy, our request will be captured, of course, if the intercept is on, and won't be allowed to continue to the TryHackMe servers until we explicitly allow it through. Now the caveat again is that for that to happen you need to have intercept on. Of course you can allow everything to pass through Burp and do not have the intercept on, and your requests will be populated, your request responses will be populated in the HTTP history tab here. We can choose to do the same with the responses from the server, although this isn't active by default. This ability to intercept requests ultimately means that we can take complete control of our web traffic. An invaluable ability when it comes to testing web applications, of course, and I highly agree with that. There are a few configurations we need to make before we can use the proxy. Let's start by looking at the interface. So let me fire up my Burp Suite here as well. Maybe we need it. You do not need to follow along, just read the information, so we do not need to follow along. Do a temporary project, use the defaults, start. Do a full screen. They were in the proxy here, and as you can see my intercept is off by default, which I believe is a feature that you have to turn somewhere in here. Maybe in the project options, HTTP, somewhere around here is where you set the intercept off by default when you start Burp Suite. Maybe in the MISC. Yeah, so this setting controls the state of proxy interception at startup. So it's under user options, miscellaneous, enable interception at startup, always disable. That's what I have it, and I think it's enabled by default. When we first open the proxy, Burp gives us a bunch of useful information and background reading. This information is well worth reading through. However, the real magic happens after we capture a request, as you can see here. Should we capture a request as well? Maybe. Let's see. New private window. We have it already capturing stuff from Firefox because it's already configured with Firefox. With the proxy active, a request was made to the TryHackMe website Let's do it as well. Have it populated in here. As you can see, this is probably the first one. Try hack me. At this point, the browser making the request will hang and the request will appear in the proxy tab, giving us the view shown in the screen above. Of course, but my intercept was off, so it just passed through and it populated the HTTP history where I've shown you the request is. We can then choose to forward or drop the request potentially after editing it. We can also do various other things, such as sending it to one of the modules, copying it as curl command. So if we go back into Burp, we can just right click on this one, send it to intruder, repeater, sequencer, compare, decoder. We can show the response of this one in the browser. When we do that, we can just check this one, just copy the URL and don't show this dialog, and then copy it and then open it in the browser. I could just copy it and then paste it over here. And that's the response to it. This entire response, we can render this response. Regardless, this is the very basics of Burp Suite. When we have finished working with the proxy, we can click the intercept on to disable the intercept, which will allow requests to pass through the proxy without being stopped. Now, Burp Suite will still be logging requests, as I've told you, the proxy when intercept is off. For going back, this is useful for going back and analyzing requests even if we didn't specifically capture it. So the logs can be viewed in the HTTP history and the WebSocket, so for the logs for the HTTP requests, and WebSockets history for the WebSockets requests. Finally, there are also proxy specific options which we can view in the options, of course, which is where you would configure your proxy. These options gives us a lot of control over how the proxy operates. So it is an excellent idea to familiarize yourself with. So for example, when I'm given a certain target to test or do a penetration test on or do a assessment on, sometimes they give you the proxy configuration already set up and you just load it into Burp, which is actually really useful because you don't have to configure it yourself. It's already configured to be working on the target. For example, the proxy will not intercept server responses by default unless we explicitly ask it on a per request basis, which is why you have the intercept responses based on the following rules on. We can override the default settings by selecting intercept responses based on the following rules. Let's see, probably these are in the options. Intercept client requests, intercept service based on the following rules. Master interception is turned off. So we do intercept, or we would actually want to intercept based on predefined or user-defined rules. The end URL is in target scope, so this is the operator, this is the match type. You want to match the URL, you want to match the status code, the request, the response. The relationship is in target scope, does not match, was intercepted, does match, was not intercepted, was modified. You can also have the condition, for example, if it's a 304, if it's whatever kind of condition it is. As they say, you can make your own rules for most of the proxy options. So this one section, this is one section where looking around and experimenting will serve you very well indeed. And I would say that as you keep on working and getting more experience with Burp Suite, you will know what you're talking about and you will know your way around much more than just watching me doing it in a video on YouTube. And there are particularly, so you can just play around, you can just get the community edition first if you're not a professional already. So if you're not working in cybersecurity, or you're not a penetration tester or whatever, or you don't have the money, you can just buy the community edition and test on your own web proxy, web traffic, so long as you remain in the legal boundaries. But when you get into the more professional stuff, or when you are a cybersecurity expert or someone who generates a lot of money from doing this, you should probably buy the full version, the professional version, because it's going to unlock a lot of potential. So we have the match and replace section. This allows you to perform regexes on incoming and outgoing requests. For example, you can automatically change your user agent, of course. So this is a little bit more advanced stuff. Not necessarily advanced, but more context dependent. So to emulate a different web browser in outgoing requests, or removal cookies in incoming requests, whatever. Which button would we choose to send an intercept request to the target in Burp Suite? Which button to send an intercepted request to the target? So you have to forward the request. That's my intuition here. So you intercept the request, and then once you've done your job with it, for example, if you want to edit it or something, you just forward the request, and then it's actually going as it would go if it weren't interrupted or intercepted by you. Assume you're using Windows or Linux. What is the default key binding for this? For research, Control R, CTR RL plus R? Nope. So research. Let's actually look into Burp. HTTP history, research. Where's the research? I don't see any research. Is it here in the intercept? What research are they talking about? What is the default key binding for what? For forwarding? Where are the key bindings? Repeater, decoder, intruder. I'm not sure what they're talking about here. So which button would we choose to send an intercepted request to the target in Burp? It's the forward. And what's the default key binding for forwarding it? Not really sure. Control F for forwarding. Does it say that in the key bindings? It doesn't say anything here. Regardless, let's see how many minutes we're in. 13 minutes we're in. Let's see the hint. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. So task number 8 is done, and then in task number 9, connecting through the proxy, Foxy proxy. Well, to be honest, I don't even use a Foxy proxy here in Firefox. I just use the defaults here. In Chrome, I do use Foxy proxy, but I don't pretty much use Chrome for intercepting the requests anymore. So connecting through the proxy, this is what we're actually going to go into in the next video. So let me just finish this one here.